Good morning, security gang. Happy Monday, and welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast, episode 1008. Thank you all for tuning in. November 10th, 2025. A busy show today. We'll get into that in just a moment. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I'll tell you what some of our stories here in just 2 seconds. You know what? Let me give you the stories right now. So first of all, on today's show, so all y'all know, state ransomware autopsy with some real numbers. We're going to be talking about Nevada. CBO is hardening after a suspected nation-state intrusion, a $5.1 million EdTech fine with lessons for identity hygiene, an Android zero-day spyware, and a macOS ClickFix. Lures are getting even slicker. And the development supply chain hits via an OpenVSX, and QNAP patches 7 different zero-days. Cisco Firewall zero-days are now being abused for denial of service, and EU's Europol data sharing vote, as well as the DOJ clearing Google's $32 billion acquisition of Wiz. All of that on today's show. So go nowhere. But tomorrow is Veterans Day. And it's a really important day for myself, for many folks, because it's a day we get to recognize the men and women who volunteered, because in the United States you volunteer, to don the uniform. They get one day. That's tomorrow. Thank a veteran. Some veterans don't like to be thanked, like yours truly. Indeed. Others need that feedback, need that recognition of the understanding of the sacrifices they made. Every service is different. Every person deals with it differently. And so please take a moment to thank your veterans. They only get one day. And for those asking, Memorial Day is the day we remember those who paid and made the ultimate sacrifice. They gave their lives in the defense of this nation. Whether you want to make this political or not, that's up to you, and that tells me more about you than it does me. But those on Memorial Day, we mourn, hence the name Memorial Day. On Veterans Day, we celebrate those who do volunteer, who do don the uniform, who do believe in the Constitution of the United States, irregardless to the political class, because the Constitution outlives everyone in politics. So, and you form lifelong friendships and brotherhoods and sisterhoods, all of that. So thank you, veteran. Tomorrow we'll have a special show. By the way, I ordered Black Rifle espresso capsules for my espresso machine. That's what I'll be drinking tomorrow's espresso. Today's espresso is a Lavazza Italian espresso. I absolutely love it. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. All right. We'll kick off with our leading story this morning, the Nevada ransomware, the root cause, blast radius, and the recovery math there. The May 14th user-initiated malware download from a spoofed site planted the backdoor that attackers later deleted backup volumes and even encrypted VMs on August 24th. They impacted 60-plus agencies within the state of Nevada, including the DMV, DHHS, and DPS. Nevada refused to pay the ransom, recovered nearly 90% of their data in 28 days, spent $1.3 million, and credits pre-negotiated IR vendors and insurance. 26 accounts were credentials stolen. They did some RDP and remote monitoring were used for lateral movement. No definitive max exfiltration was found, but at least one file was confirmed stolen. So we see the real impact here when it comes to downtime costs, cross-agency disruption, and even incident day restore complexities like the deleted backup volumes. You always want to block typo squat downloads. You should be enforcing application control for installers. You should segment and lock backup networks. They should be immutable. They should be out of bounds. You should watch for RDP anomalies. You should rotate your credentials on any system with remote tools. And you should rehearse a 28-day recovery playbook. I say you should rehearse a recovery playbook, period, right? You should have some sort of timeline of what it would take for you to recover in these types of events. We move to news coming out of Washington as we record the show this morning that the Senate did vote to refund the government. 8 Democrats crossed the line. Rand Paul crossed the other way, but 60 votes were reached in the Senate to reopen the government. It now goes to Congress. So shutdown should probably be over maybe the earliest Tuesday night. If things go fast, Tuesday night. If they decide to do something in Congress, I'd expect Thursday or Friday of this week, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel from the shutdown. And This takes us to the Congressional Budget Office implementing new controls after breach reports. The CBO says a complex foreign actor access systems. Response actions included containment, additional monitoring, and new security controls were put in place. Reporting notes possible exposure of messages and even chats with congressional staff. Discovery is still early. The policy-sensitive communications that the CBO deals with do have some intelligence value, and the potential follow-on spear phishing campaigns could be significant, meaning if you're in Congress, if you're a staffer in Congress, you may want to pay a little bit more attention over the next 3 to 12 months. Lockdown messaging retention. One way to deal with this, by the way, is to lock down your messaging retention exports. You should alert on mailbox permission changes. You should enforce phishing resistance MFA, which is app-based, not text-based, and conditional access on staffers and shared mailboxes should be enacted in every single organization, not just the Congressional Budget Office. So they are dealing with that as well. We move to this fine, $5.1 million fine for Illuminate, which is an education tech company, after a breach in 2021 created a Hygiene 101 class. 3 AGs from California, Connecticut, and New York fined Illuminate $5.1 million for exposed data that included student names, races, coded medical conditions, and even special ed status. Out of all 3 million of the victims were in California. All 49 states were impacted. What were the failings of the breach according to these 3 AGs? Stale ex-employee credentials were reused by an intruder, so they weren't deleting old user credentials. Now, that is a very, very common hygiene issue in a lot of organizations. The reason for it is we offboard someone, we forward their inbox, and then we never really set a follow-up in many organizations, meaning once that person's accounts kind of been suspended, their messages have been forwarded to someone who's replacing them, we don't always go back and clean it up, and we should. We didn't. They didn't. It's costing them $5.1 million just in the fine. Obviously, there was the breach cost to it too, so add all of that. They had weak monitorings. Their backups were not segregated from production. They had misleading privacy claims. The company now operates under the name Renaissance, agreed to strengthen access controls and even monitoring and separate backups. The liability for sensitive minors' data is significant in many, many states. Contract and reputation risk does exist there. So you can obviously tell bad hygiene here led to the change of the company's name, led to a whole bunch of stuff there. Real business impact. That business impact will be felt by the company for years and years to come. The Landfall Android spyware via WhatsApp is back up and running here. So this is a zero-day targeting Samsung devices. Palo Alto is reporting Landfall exploited CVE 2025-21042, which is a Samsung image processing library using a crafted DNG images sent over WhatsApp. The RC on Galaxy S22, S23, S24 to Z Fold 4, Z Flip 4 capabilities include mic location, contacts, photos, and all the rest. Samsung patched this in April of 25. But the exploitation is pre-patch. There's a lot of similarity to CV 2025-21043. Were also noted by Palo Alto. So you can look at a lot of targeting of specific individuals using this zero-day. It's likely a spyware-based of attack. So we're seeing more of those really become, these are zero-click, no user interaction. They can take over the device. You want to make sure you upgrade to the latest version that deals with that zero-day. And in some devices, they actually have like a takeover button where you can kind of test it. I would do that as well. We move to these ClickFix attacks, which are getting more and more complex. The social engineering is now moving to macOS, more polished than ever before. There's fewer steps that attackers are mimicking Cloudflare verification pages. They're even refining flow instruction. macOS users will go through the Spotlight and Terminal drop a macOS info stealer like Seamus or Amos variants. They embed how-to videos plus countdowns to increase compliance. Microsoft added some detections, but UX-driven nature limits platform defenses. You want to make sure that malware installs that look user-initiated are now evading some controls with this ClickFix. You want to have browser isolation for untrusted sites. That's where browser security comes into play. EDR rules for clipboard/terminal sequences and one-liner curls, even user training specific to ClickFix lures, network blocks, unknown landing pages. all go a very, very long way to help build resiliency against these types of attacks. The Glassworm campaign continues to come back. We talked about it last week. Now, 3 new malicious VSCode extensions have been Trojanized into OpenVSX extensions, fetching payloads via Solana transactions. They target GitHub NPM and OpenVSX creds and crypto wallets using invisible Unicode JavaScript tricks. The package is AI-driven, AI-driven.ai-driven.dev had 3,400 downloads. Adhamu.history-in-sublime-merge has over 4,000 downloads. And Yasauyuki.transient-emacs has 2,400 downloads. OpenVSX rotated the tokens after the last round, but the actors pivoted from the infrastructure. 60 victims have been identified so far. A global company, including a Middle East government entity, were impacted by this. Dev credential theft and supply chain risks continue to be top of mind. For years, we focused on the endpoint. We focused on the identity. They're now pivoting and showing us just how easy it is to get into our supply chain. You should take a look at wallet losses because those could be significant. You should blocklist this extensions right off the bat. You should require publisher provenance. You should enforce fine-graded PAT scopes and even short TTLs. You should run secret scanning. You should monitor developer hosts for Solana and RPC beacons as well to build more and more resilience on your supply chain. We move to QNAP, where we are seeing, folks, a whole bunch of stuff. They're after the pawn to own in Ireland. QNAP patching 7 different 0 days. CVEs 2025 62847, 62848, 62849. Those are the QTS, QUTS Hero. CVE 2025 59389, that's a hyper data protection. CVE 2025 11837, which is a malware remover. And CVE 2025 62840, 62842, that's the HBS3, were all fixed late October. And an updated version was also addressing CVE 2025 52425, that's the Magi SQLI. So NOS takeover, data theft, and even crypto locking, and it could even job compromise your backups. You want to update to the OS apps to the listed versions, rotate NOS credentials, restrict admins UI to VPN, monitor for unauthorized jobs and anomalous SMB and rsync activity. And again, all of these coming from Pawn to Own Ireland's competition. Tells you everything you need to know there. Cisco warning that the chained CVEs of 2025-20362 to unauthorized access to restricted URLs and CV 2025-20333 to post authentication RCE previously used as 0 days are now a variant forces reboots on unpatched ASAs and FTDs. CISA issuing an emergency directive in September. Over 34,000 exposed devices are still vulnerable. The campaign is being linked to the A-Crane Door State Actor. Earlier bugs included CVEs 2024 20353 and 20359. Other Cisco CVEs 20363 and 20352 were also noted in some of these recent advisories. So again, perimeter device compromise or takedown, you should look at outage and covert persistence there, as if you're not patching those up. Patch to Cisco's latest fixed releases, remove end-of-life ASAs from service, and Geo and ASN restrict management continuous config identity checks and hunt for line dancer, line runner style artifacts all in. So again, Cisco devices, rip. The EU Parliament is expanding data sharing and biometric processing for anti-trafficking and anti-smuggling aims, or at least that's what they claim. Heading to plenary vote, civil liberty groups are warning on surveillance and privacy risks within Europe for this. And again, I love how Europe's always going after civil liberties by saying, look, we just want to fight human trafficking and migrant smuggling. So you created a problem with your own laws in the EU Parliament when you allowed unvetted migrants and gangs to come into your continent. Now you want to go after the civil liberties of your dual citizens to do just that. Why Europe does not seem attractive to me anymore. I wonder why. All right. So the agreement by Google and Wiz for the $32 billion acquisition has now cleared the Department of Justice. So this is great news. The acquisition will continue, started in March of 25. So now they're clearing the confirmed that the company's clearing. Asaf Rappaport, CEO of WIS, confirming the company cleared the regulatory hurdle, noting that they are still in the journey between signing and closing. They look forward to completing the review process in other jurisdictions, but the acquisition is expected to close at some point next year. So again, huge win there for Google and Wiz, $32 billion, which has kind of become the number, right? Everyone kind of looks at that's the benchmark, even though it's the exception. That's the benchmark. All right. That's it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest. You can find more at cyberhubpodcast.com, including a written summary of today's show exclusively in your inbox shortly after the show's over with all of the action items we talked about here, everything. So you don't need to take notes. You just get to enjoy it. And then go subscribe at cyberhubpodcast.com. You'll get all the latest there, including our article this weekend, Regulation, Spend, and the Illusion of Security. We deep dive into flat budgets, heavy regulation, and shallow incentives. Are they keeping us, and why they're keeping us one step behind the attackers, and how smarter market-driven standards could actually change that. So I make that argument there. You're welcome to go check it out, cyberhubpodcast.com. Thank you all for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.